And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit why we picked the shades we picked. Number one, it's the discretion of our customer, in this case, Nick. He decided to stay legal on the front, but let me show you guys exactly why we're going with a 35% tint on the back. So when we talked to Nick about what shade he was looking for the rears, in the state of Arizona and Vegas, you can go as dark as you want on your rear glass. There is no legality regarding how dark you can get your tint. Nick didn't want to go too dark where it was limo, but he did want to darken the rear a bit more than the front so there can be a little bit of a staggered look like the original factory look that Lexus used to do back in the day. So what we decided to do, we went ahead and measured the rear glass. I got a tint measuring gauge, and what this gauge does, it measures the VLT, visual light transmission, that runs through the glass. Now, natural undyed glass, your natural shade out of the factory is around that 80 to 90%. So there is still a little bit of shade even with a natural glass with no dye and no tint. In the case of this glass over here, we're at 30%. So if we want to knock this 30% down to 15, we're going to have to layer a slightly lighter shade on top of it to get it down to 15. In this case, we'd be putting a 35 on top of the 30, and that will knock that down to that 15% range that we're looking for, okay? Now, this is all in discretion of the tinter and the expertise that they have. They will typically dictate what shade to put on top of dyed glass to get it to the percentage that we're looking for. So that's kind of the route that we take to gauge what kind of film we need to put on top of dyed glass to get the shade of your preferred preference.
All right, guys, peel board, for those that don't know, what's happened here, we've already shown you footage. Zaya explained really well what a plotter is, and a plotter cuts out the pattern of the windows, right? So it keeps a knife off your car. There's a lot of people that'll talk about the old school and cutting it by hand. We can all cut by hand, but Zaya, if we come over here, one thing is when you start working knives on some of these old seals and stuff like that, some of this stuff just becomes a headache and a hassle. It's unbelievable now that we have software that basically precision cuts. Look, we may have to do some trimming. Not every glass is perfect, but I think if you can keep a knife off some of these old seals, I would vote for that, me personally. So what you'll see is, I guess he's going to do a little snap shrink here right on the panel, and again, what he's going to do is he's going to help him shrink this so it molds and suctions itself basically to the glass, for lack of a better term. Okay, so we're going to see now door guards, okay? This is one of the things that you can watch and people will have a debate about. Here's how I feel about it here at 48 Detailing. Obviously, they feel identical about it. We have so many electronics. Obviously, it's a 2003. You don't have like this beautiful Escalade over here. That is all tech, okay? Something goes wrong, you short something in the door, you have no idea what it will short in the rest of the system. So for this, these door guards to me are no-brainer. He's going to remove an anti-theft sticker, as Zaya said. I think it's kind of served its purpose. So you don't want to install over these things. So if you're somebody that has a bunch of stickers down here, you obviously want them removed because it's just there'll be a big water and air pocket behind there. So we want the film to have as much to adhere to. Obviously, there are certain glasses, and I don't know how much you guys run into this, where the etching is really, really, really thick. You would have to shave that or use some steel wool on that as well. This is not that. So what I'm talking about is here. Some of that is very, very thick on certain manufacturers' glass. That's not the case here. But yeah, you want to prep it. You see that he used a stainless steel blade on that, perfectly safe. But I'm a big believer in the door guards. And so you're going to have two things to think about when you prep this window. First of all, you're going to think about these gaskets that are very, very old and very dirty. So you're going to see him spray the water down the sides. The thing is that if you don't get these clean, this is where contaminants on old vehicles and even brand new vehicles comes from. So you'll see him swipe down the side. Let's go ahead and show the towel. Okay, so it's almost like we've done this before. But this is where your contamination is going to come from. And so you can never really over prep those areas, but you can kind of get stuck on them if you don't realize you can have black coming out forever and ever and ever from these gaskets. You just want to get any loose type of dirt and grime that would go into the film. So this is kind of just one of those normal prep procedures that if you have it right, you just do it without thinking almost. And there's a lot of little things when you're doing an older vehicle, because obviously I know a lot of people watching this are going to be into the Land Cruisers and the LXs. One of the things that I tell people, be realistic about your vehicle. Once you get age on it, it's not going to look like the install on a brand new Escalade or on a brand new Land Cruiser, which we've had some history with here on the podcast. But I would just tell everybody, be very realistic, and if you choose the right shop, this is going to go seamless. All right, guys, we're now in full prep mode. You're seeing that he's just using, call him a scratch pad or whatever, very safe for glass. He'll be feeling for any contaminants, but when you talk about having your glass completely clean, this is the way to do it. And so he'll roll it down. Now, really important to get the top edge right, both inside and out. You'll see these going just a little over because you don't want anything off the top edge seeping into your film. Because like I said, because it's been shrunk on the peel board, what will happen is it'll almost suction to the glass. When it does that, it can pull in water and stuff from everywhere else. And so you'll see he's going to get the top edge really well. Okay, you can see if he pulled it back, it's completely clean. Now he'll squeegee this out. Okay, and when he does this, he'll basically leave a perfect surface. And you see he's overlapping his squeegees here, his squeegee strokes, just to make sure that it's perfectly clean. And when this goes into the side, you'll see him flush that out later on if you're wondering. All right, guys. So now you're going to see he's got three-quarters of it pulled. This is called a two-stage installation. You don't have to pull, you see some guys like to bottom load, they'll pull the door panel off, not really necessary. He'll get the top kind of where it needs to go. Okay, it won't be perfect at first. He's just kind of nestling it in there. And so now you can see that he's going to get it refined here. And it's just one of those things that just takes some time. All these bubbles you see and all that white, that's called slip solution again. Using slip solution to allow this to be maneuverable and get the film exactly where he wants. So now you're seeing him precisely lay the film, and he's looking at the top edge. He's got hands everywhere to get the perfect install here. And so remember at the beginning, when we talked about what is a good gap, this is really tight. Again, remember, this was computer cut. So we're going to go ahead and do a first little light swipe here to kind of get it to lay down. Okay, you're not going to go super hard with the squeegee. And one of the best things about these installs is now you're seeing that he's pushing a little hard because he got that top edge sealed in there really nicely. So go over it again. Perfect. You see just no real gap at the top. Okay. And remember, Zaya kind of said it in an earlier video. I mean, a fingernail is very, very acceptable. If you want somebody to file down your edges, then simply ask for it, but that's going to be at an additional cost, obviously. So what he's doing now is in case anything came down, in case anything leaked down, he's flushing that out again. Again, this is called a two-stage install. He's going to go ahead and pull the rest of the liner. He's going to flush it out just a little bit more, put a little bit more slip in there that it's going to allow that to slip behind that gasket. Pulls the middle, which allows him to pull the edges in, get the edges tucked, okay? No creasing of the film, the way that he just did it, and now he's going to try to get it to sit down in the gasket. So he's going to take his tool and he's going to pull out the gasket so he can get it to fit down. Again, remember, this is much easier on newer cars, believe it or not. This is not as constructed, this is constructed way better than a newer car would be on these, okay? So just trying to get the film to sit down in there. And you will have times where you just, you're fighting it, you're maneuvering it, you're just trying to be careful with how you do things. And so as you see now, going along the bottom, making sure everything's sitting in there. Also, he's making sure that the edge of the film is sitting below the gasket so it doesn't pull up when you roll the window up and down, which can happen. And so now he'll just squeegee down the middle, okay? And now he'll kind of spread the film out to the edges, which is one of the most important steps here to get this finished out. Actually very smooth for as tight as those gaskets were. Very great install. And now just pushing everything to the edge, being methodical about it. Take the easy reach and just kind of get down. Push the water out. Okay. Now he's going to go along the bottom. You'll see all this water come out. Perfect. That is textbook of exactly what you should see on a two-stage install. Again, bottom loading works as well. When you're working on older cars, I think we all kind of have the same opinion. Do I want to be pulling panels unnecessarily? Not necessarily, you know, there's guys that are great at it, but honestly, on something like this, it worked perfectly with a two-stage install. Much easier to pull a more modern panel, believe it or not. There's a lot less screws, a lot less clips than what you would have in this. So to me, just a perfect, flawless install. Now he's going to go. This is kind of one of the most important parts, as we saw on the windshield, is he's going to have some light shining in. You're going to see him do just some detail work and make sure that everything's down, everything's where it needs to be. He'll probably go back, he'll pull the door guards, he'll go back again along the bottom just to make sure everything's sitting properly. And like I said, this is pretty textbook, right? We're not even seeing one bit of contamination, just a perfectly clean install, which again, I'll say it right out, I didn't think it was even possible. I don't know how everybody else felt, but when you're working on a vehicle of this age, to not have any contamination prep is key, and they did a perfect job. And we're out of the fishbowl. That's the most important part. I won't be driving back to Vegas in a complete fishbowl here from Phoenix.
You're lucky I don't have a mic on me.
Hey, just a perfect install. And so again, I mean, I'm very, very shocked. I know the level of work these guys do here at 48 Detailing, but to be honest with you, it's very hard to get some of these old cars in such a great clean install, but it's been just going seamlessly. And I think we even say it, that plotter, the fact that they have a 2003 on the computer software, it takes a lot of pressure off having to knife on the car and do all that kind of stuff. So just a perfect install. Couldn't be happier with how it's going for sure. All right, guys, we're finishing up the project. We're on the back glass. We thought we'd bring in and talk about the defroster lines. As you can see, we have lots of defroster lines. In modern cars, you know, cars of this age, 2003, you're gonna see defroster lines. Let's talk about some facts and some things that could happen. We're seeing thicker and thicker defroster lines now. You might see this on Challenger, Charger as an example. So prep is key, but let's talk about some things that can happen. Upon removal of tint, some of the things you could have happen is you can actually have the defroster lines come off, okay? And it's very normal for that to happen. Somebody's not being negligent. You do your best to avoid that kind of stuff, but it can happen. So one of the things that's really important on these back glasses, especially modern glass with thicker defroster lines, is going to be about prep. You don't want any air or water sitting around the defroster lines. So what will happen is guys will go to extreme lengths, you know, taking steel wool, you know, even some guys, I see guys even using blades at times that are highly technical with this stuff to try to make it so your tint sits flat. Okay, so one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that sometimes you can't get away from the manufacturer. If you have some of these dot matrices, okay, so you see these dots here, you can get on some cars where the film will sit kind of, you know, not quite right on those. So prep is key here. This is why to choose a high value shop like our guys here at 48 Detailing is because all of the prep will allow this film to lay very, very well. Also, this is the reason to use a high quality film, because if it does have to come off, let's say something happens, you know, I damaged the film taking something out of the trunk, the higher quality adhesive that you have, the less likely you are to pull defroster, but it is still a worry. So what we're finishing up, we're on the last piece here. It's been a seamless process, much better than I thought that it would go, but you kind of expect that if you hire the right shop. So we'll bring you in, show you the after when we're done, and we'll show you a little bit of B-roll of these guys prepping and getting this thing ready. Well, the first big project on the 2003 LX 470 is in the books.
Woo!
Yeah, driving from Vegas down to Scottsdale and Phoenix for Barrett Jackson, we knew we had to get it done. We came to 48 Detailing. The work is exceptional. We walked you through everything that we did, from prepping and things to look for. I think this is one of those videos that you can keep referring back to, whether you're trying to do it yourself or you want to hire a shop, which you and I talked about, and you see what goes into a high quality shop and a high quality install. The vehicle's been transformed. What say you?
Yeah, man. I mean, this video is going to be phenomenal. I don't think there's another video out there that goes this much in detail from both perspectives for consumers and also other shops out there. I mean, between me and you, Nick, there's over 25, almost 30 years worth of experience right here when it comes to this industry. And knowing Nick, he's been around hundreds of shops throughout the country, you know, and I've had my fair share of friend shops and companion shops and seeing how things are done. Everything in this video are the basic necessities for a quality tint installation, plus some to get you from that really good install to that amazing install. Of course, while setting reasonable expectations as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we wanted to do with this video is educate consumers on why to get tint. It's not just a looks thing. We care about the looks of our vehicles probably first and foremost, but all the things that tint can do for your vehicle. So for this to be the first project, for my great friend and the team here at 48 Detailing, been an awesome experience, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.